everyone, what is it we have here then? It's a golf gym, but not as we know it. Let me demonstrate. Oop, I can break off. So what is this little beast we're driving today? Well, it's the Golf R, the Mk7 Golf R, which is the tippy top of the golf range. It is a more powerful, has a 290-ish horsepower engine over the GTI, which is 220-ish. But more importantly, it has the four-wheel drive system. It has a light sprinkling of bling in it as well, but generally it looks pretty much like a regular Golf. You can tell from the R badges and the quad tailpipes at the back, but to the untrained eye, most people would just think it's a regular Golf. But it isn't. It is the Golf R, which means it has more power, just enough power actually to make your testicles tingle. It's a great little machine. And of course, because of the four-wheel drive system, gone are the problems with front-wheel drive, torque steer, and trying to power into corners, all the issues you have with front-wheel drive cars that the GTI suffers with because the power is spread over those four wheels. However, it is also the most expensive Golf. It starts here in the US at about $36,000, and once spec'd up with all the bits and pieces, you can be well over $40,000. And you might say, what, Nick? Who would pay Audi, BMW, Mercedes money for a Golf? Well, there are a few people that would do that, and I think most people would probably be the bigger group would probably be those that are looking at a GTI and they've spec'd up the Autobahn version, and they've put the extra headlights and the better radio and the navigation, all that sort of stuff, and they've got into the sort of low 30s and then gone, for an extra $2,000-$3,000 I could have the R and have the four-wheel drive and the extra power. So I think it's a lot of the buyers. But the other buyers, the other group, which I would fall into, are the people that are looking for a car that is a little understated and yet has the performance. And that's what this car really is. And it sort of carries on a great tradition within the Golf R, R32 and the VR6 Golfs, which were performance cars that look like regular Golfs to most people. These cars have some real performance potential. The engine isn't just a tuned up version of the GTI, it is a completely re-engineered version. It still has the same, I think it's called the EA888 engine, but they have made a lot of changes to it, so it's not just a tune. There's a lot of internals in this engine are beefed up to make the extra power, so this car is still quite tunable. People that have put a stage 1 on these latest edition Mk7 Golf Rs are getting 350 horsepower out of them, no problem. But it's the torque that makes the big difference. To feel that sudden rush of torque and to be able to lay that torque on the ground because of the four-wheel drive system really makes these cars so magic. But they still retain all of the, let's not kill this cyclist, they still retain all the joy that is the regular Golf GTI as well. The steering's still nice and light, the gearbox, this particular car has got the 6-speed manual in it, and it is a joy. It's just a light, flickable gearbox that I never get wrong, although I did stall it before. And it's such a predictable, pleasant, solid, beautiful little car to drive. So let's stop for a second and talk about the history of the R. It doesn't have such a long history as the GTI. The GTI goes all the way back to the Mark I Golf, whereas the R really started with the Mark III as a VR6. And I remember seeing one of these in the 90s when I was just a youngster with freckles. I was on vacation in Europe, driving on the Autobahn with my friends and family, and you know, you'd see the big Mercedes and BMWs in the fast lane going 200, 250 kilometers an hour, which was huge back then. Those were enormous speeds, and only a small selection of cars could do those speeds. But yeah, you'd see the big cars doing that. But one day I saw, you know, a big BMW go past, a 750i, and then a big S-Class, and then they were being followed at the same speed by a Volkswagen Golf. And I was, oh my God, that is the fucking coolest thing I've ever seen. And what was that Golf? It was the VR6, you know, and that's what was so cool. It was a little Golf that no one expects to produce such performance, and it was keeping up with the big boys. And from that point on, I was sold. I thought, my God, that is just the coolest thing. And I ended up getting a car similar to that. You know, 10 years later, I bought an Audi 3.2 hatch, which was same as the Volkswagen R32 at the time, and I just loved that car. And so I can certainly see why people buy these. You know, it's a performance vehicle that is sort of dressed like just a regular quiet little Golf, and that's what's so cool about them. Most people don't even know what the potential of these cars are. So what are we going to do in this review? Well, we'll take it for a little bit more of a drive, talk about what's new in the Mk7, some of the differences with the GTI. I recently, just last week, did a GTI review, so I'll put a link to that just here if you want to have a look at that, because some of what I covered in the GTI I'm not going to cover here. So just go take a look at that. And then we'll stop, have a look around the outside of this car, have a look in the inside, and then I'll finish up and talk a little bit about comparing it with its major competitor, probably the WRX STI, which is sort of in the same price bracket, same performance bracket. So driving this car, it feels much like a GTI or the other Golfs within the range, but of course there's more go to it. There's more grunt, there's more horsepower and torque, of course. And you know, from a standing still, of course you don't get the wheel spin from the front wheel drive. Otherwise, it's very similar to a GTI, just a little faster, and seems to make it a little bit more of a deep-throated sound to it as well. But otherwise, picks up all the great characteristics of a GTI, or any Golf for that matter. You know, one of the things I love about the Golf range is, you know, they're a small car that feels solid and planted like a larger car. I talked about this when I drove a Mazda 3, where I love the Mazda 3, but you know, I'd always give it to the Golf as a car that feels more substantial and better put together. And that's true with this R. You know, it takes all of the great things that you get in any regular Golf and adds a bunch of power and four-wheel drive. So, you know, there's not much to complain about. One thing I would say is that just like in the GTI, there's not a lot of feedback in the steering. You know, it's not the end of the world. You still know where you're going, and you can still position the car on the road just as you'd want to. But yeah, there's not a lot of feel coming back there. I get a bit more feel in the pedals than I remember in the previous generation. So yeah, the driving experience is as expected. It's the wonderful experience you get of driving a GTI with the benefit of extra power and traction. So, what's new and improved in this Mk7 Golf R? Well, not too many things. Obviously, cosmetic changes with the latest generation, and a little more power under the hood, which allows this Golf R for the first time to achieve a sub 5 second 0 to 60, you know, takeoff. Although I believe that's just with the DSG. But probably the most significant change, and it's just a little one, is that you can now hold down the traction control button for 3 or 4 seconds. There we go. And it completely defeats the traction control. This might not be a big deal for most people, but I think for a lot of Golf R owners that drive in the snow, this is going to be a great deal of fun. You know, there's nothing that puts a smile on my face more than drifting a four-wheel drive car sideways in the snow. So that's something for the owner of this car to look forward to. A bit of tomfoolery in the snow will be a bit of great fun. Okay, So Albert and I have stopped here so that we can take a look around the inside of the Golf R. Very similar to a GTI, just a few subtle changes. First one being, down here, if you look down here, you can see the little blue bar, which is red bar in a Golf GTI. And inside, very much like a GTI, except for a well-optioned GTI. On the console here, you see the little blue dials. Pretty cool. But otherwise, yeah, like a regular Golf GTI inside, which is all a good thing. It's so well made inside these cars, just a pleasure to drive. Little R on the steering wheel. Obviously down here you get the 4Motion symbol. This is the 6-speed manual. Interestingly, I can't seem to find the performance display, which was on the GTI that I reviewed a week or so back. It's the display that shows the boost pressure and all the other little nifty things, which I'm sure all Golf R owners would love to have. So I don't know why that's not there. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. But yeah, you can still get the silly Think Blue. And you know, it moves with your hand and so forth. Around the rest of the car, you get the little fake carbon fiber here, and the R symbol on the seats, and a bit of light deviated stitching on the seats and around the edges. So, you know, it's a really lovely little space to be in. The seats are super supportive and comfy. They're very Golf-like seats. I just love the seats in Golf. And you know, it's a beautiful functional interior. Yeah, I've got no complaints. If we have a quick look from left to right, it's the normal Golf buttons, a bit of shiny black plastic on everything, gives it a little bit of an upmarket feel, I guess. Controls will work nicely. In the Golf R it comes standard with the dual climate, whereas in the GTI that's an option. And I guess that's about it. Inside, we'll pop into the back and have a look how the rear seating works, with the seat right in the centre. Okay, Albert, shift bottom over. So here we are in the rear, and as you can see, 6 foot tall. I've got plenty of headroom, so you know, the rear seat in a Golf is a lovely place to be as well. We'll pop back and have a quick look in the trunk as well. Around the back of the car, the owner of this car has a bit of soft toy thing going on as well. A bit of a rat infestation in the back of this car. It reminds me of driving my brother's Ford, but these ones are pretty harmless. Interestingly, the trunk area in the Golf R is a little smaller than on the other Golfs because of the transmission. The rear transmission takes up a little bit of room, so it's not as deep as a regular Golf. And of course, it's got all my crap in the back here. We'll pop around the front and quickly have a look at the engine as well. Here we are on the engine, TSI R. Yeah. Much like a GTI engine, same engine, just a few tweaks here and there to give it that extra power. Sweet little beast. Okay, so here we are outside, and hopefully my stabilizer is working a little better today. Yes, it does seem to be. And we'll take a look around the outside. And you know, it's the iconic Golf shape, and you really wouldn't know that it was anything more than a GTI until you get around the back and you see those quad tailpipes, and of course there's a little bit of R badging floating around as well, which is what I think is so cool about these cars. They're such a little undercover spy car. The wheels, of course, are unique to the R's as well. And this blue colour is one of only 6 colours that you can get the R in. And up the front you get the little R badge here as well. Some slight cosmetic changes to the grills and so forth with the R, but otherwise, yeah, it's a Golf. you know, and that's what's so cool about them. Who would know that there's 300 horsepower lurking under that hood? So what about the Golf R's main competition? I see it as the WRX STI, which is also a 4-cylinder car, turbocharged car with 4-wheel drive, similar price bracket, similar horsepower. The STI is certainly a faster car, but you know, apart from those things, that's where the similarities between these two cars end. You know, I think they are actually two cars for two very different types of people. The Golf R is a far more refined vehicle. It's, you know, it's not only is it quieter and easier to drive long distances. You wouldn't get fatigued driving this car like you would with the STI, but it's also a quieter car to look at. You know, it doesn't. The STI has the big spoiler on the back and all the bodywork and the loud wheels and the loud exhaust. You know, it's shouting, "Look at me, I'm a performance car," whereas the Golf R is really much more of an undercover vehicle, and that's why I think the market isn't that similar for these two cars. You know, the person that buys this car probably really isn't looking at an STI, and vice versa. It's not saying that one is better than the other, they're just two different markets. You know, the person that's buying the STI really wants to show the world the car they're driving, whereas the person that's buying the Golf R is a little bit more subtle, wants to know that he's got the performance, but also wants to slide into the parking space at work and not really be noticed. And that's what's so cool about the Golf R, is that it is such an undercover, you know, quiet vehicle that still has all the performance potential of a 300 horsepower car. So it's why I love the Golf R. It is such a beautiful car to drive, but it is still such a little mean beast underneath. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this review. Thanks for watching, everyone, as always. I really appreciate your views, and happy holidays to you all, and I'll see you in my next review. Say goodbye, Albert. You're right there, Albert. Apparently, Albert, I say Volkswagen incorrectly. I meant to say Volkswagen. Volkswagen. Can you say Volkswagen? Get in the back, you little Volkswagen. Still have the potential for a deep... Whoa! branch just fell out of the sky. Still have the potential to perform. That would be bad if I got hit by a branch during a car review. Anyway, moving on.
I stalled it, Albert. What a dick.